making headlines this hour. According to Dr. Hala Hamid, the Secretary at Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the inauguration of a Maldivian embassy in Doha, Qatar, constitutes an important advancement that has taken bilateral relations between the two countries to a new level. Minister of Economic Development, Transport and Trade, Mohammed Saeed, announces the Maldives and India have completed the first round of negotiations for a proposed Free Trade Agreement, FTA. And Minister of Health, Family and Welfare, Gila Ali, says the government is working to establish caucus groups comprising lawmakers and women's rights advocates to strengthen women's participation in policy making. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Fatma Zaina Rifat. And now for the news in detail. President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu returns to the Maldives after an official visit to Qatar, where he offered condolences following the death of the country's former emir, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. President Muizzu traveled to Doha to pay his respects to Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani and the royal family after the death of the former emirs last Sunday. During the visit, Sheikh Tamim received the Maldivian president in an official audience. President Muizzu conveyed condolences on behalf of the Maldivian government and people. The two leaders also reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening bilateral relations between the Maldives and Qatar. The Maldivian government said the visit reflected the importance of its places in its long-standing partnership with Qatar. Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, who served as Emir of Qatar from 1995 to 2013, was credited with supporting several key initiatives in the Maldives. Minister of Health, Family and Welfare, Gila Ali, says the government is working to establish caucus groups comprising lawmakers and women's rights advocates to strengthen women's participation in policy making. The minister made the remarks during the general debate of the 9th session of the Ministerial Conference on the Advancement of Women of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, in Islamabad, Pakistan, where she outlined the Maldives' efforts to promote gender equality and women's empowerment. Welcoming the conference theme, Empowering Women Socially, Economically and Politically in IOC member states challenges the way forward, Gila said it closely aligns with the Maldives Gender Equality Action Plan 2022-2026. She said the action plan serves as a national framework for strengthening women's leadership, promoting economic empowerment, advancing institutional gender equality, eliminating gender-based violence, and improving access to justice. Highlighting progress in leadership and governance, Gila said women currently account for 37% of elected local councillors in the Maldives. She reaffirmed the government's commitment to increasing women's representation in decision-making positions through initiatives such as Taking the Lead, Women in Politics, and Practice Parliament for Women program. The minister also announced plans to establish a women's caucus to strengthen links between Island Women's Development Committees, WDCs, and policy-making bodies at the atoll, regional, and national levels. She added that the government is continuing efforts to institutionalize gender equality through the Maldivian Gender Equality Model and develop a gender-responsive budgeting framework to guide national planning and resource allocation. Minister Gila also highlighted government support for women entrepreneurs, including a $6.49 million loan scheme operated through SME Digital and a specialized leasing facility for women. She said that as of April, more than $1.15 million have been dispersed to 82 women entrepreneurs. She added that consultation meetings had been held with more than 275 women entrepreneurs across various atolls to assess the economic status of women and identify challenges facing female-led businesses. Reaffirming the Maldives' commitment to eliminating gender-based and domestic violence, Gila said the government is reforming health sector guidelines, conducting youth awareness programs under the Eku Eki Together as One initiative, and providing training for judges and caseworkers. She added that media guidelines have also been developed to support responsible reporting on gender-based violence. The minister acknowledged that challenges remain in terms of resources and institutional capacity, stressing that stronger cooperation among OIC member states is essential to advancing gender equality. According to Dr. Hala Hamid, the secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the inauguration of a Maldivian embassy in Doha, Qatar, constitutes an important advancement that has taken bilateral relations between the two countries to a new level. Secretary Hala delivered these remarks during a PSM news broadcast, following the passing of Qatar's former emir, Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. Although the Maldives and Qatar established diplomatic ties 42 years ago, the opening of the Doha mission last year and the appointment of Adam Sharif Umar as inaugural resident ambassador represent critical milestones in reinforcing these bonds. Formally established in June 2025, the mission aims to fortify cooperation across political, economic, defense, and educational sectors. The international community recognizes Doha as a hub of global significance, comparable to cities such as New York and Geneva, noted the secretary, underscoring that maintaining an embassy in such a prominent location generates multidimensional advantages. President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu and Vice President Hussein Mohammad Latif have previously reinforced this geopolitical importance by attending conferences. The President passes the Human Organ Transplant Bill. The Parliament passes the Human Organ Transplant Bill after introducing 3 key amendments to legislation, which had been returned for reconsideration by the President. President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu sent the Human Organ Transplant Bill back to Parliament after it had originally been passed, citing concerns that some of the amendments made by the Parliament could create practical difficulties in implementing the law. He said the bill, in its existing form, required further review and amendment. Following its return to Parliament, the Social Affairs Committee proposed several amendments. Among them, 2 provisions previously removed from Article 7 were reinstated. These specify that a person wishing to donate an organ must not be in state custody and must not be a person detained on criminal charges or serving a court-imposed sentence. In his message to Parliament, the President stated that people in detention or prison are in a situation where their personal autonomy and freedom are restricted. As such, they should not be regarded as being able to give fully informed and voluntary consent to donate an organ without any form of pressure or coercion. He also noted that even in the few countries that allow organ donation by prisoners or detainees, such donations are permitted only after additional safeguards and stringent procedures have been satisfied. Allowing such donations without similar safeguards, he said, could create significant challenges in enforcing the law. The committee also introduced further amendments, including the removal of provisions relating to the unauthorized removal of organs, the application of qisas, a retaliatory punishment for unlawful organ transplantation, and compensation for donated organs. Instead, anyone found guilty of carrying out an illegal organ transplant will face a fine of between $9,702.46 and $16,170.76, as well as imprisonment for between 12 and 18 months. In addition, while the bill has previously required regulations to be drafted within 180 days of the law being ratified, it has now been amended to require all regulations necessary to implement the law to be completed within 180 days of its coming into force. The law itself will take effect 180 days after ratification. It also requires the establishment of an organ transplant council within 60 days of the law coming into force. The amended bill was approved after the Social Affairs Committee's report was presented to Parliament. It passed with the unanimous support of all 58 members present and voting. Minister of Economic Development, Transport and Trade, Mohammad Saeed, announces the Maldives and India have completed the first round of negotiations for a proposed free trade agreement, FTA. Speaking at a press conference at the president's office, Saeed said the government is working to bring the agreement into force before the end of the year. He said the first round of negotiations has already been concluded, covering 12 sectors. The minister said the free trade agreement forms part of the government's broader strategy to diversify the Maldivian economy beyond tourism. He said the Maldives must strengthen its integration with global markets, expand access to new export destinations, and create more opportunities for Maldivian businesses. The economic minister added that the government has a responsibility to create opportunities that enable the ideas and ambitions of young Maldivian entrepreneurs to reach their full potential, describing the proposed agreement with India as one of the key initiatives supporting that objective. Negotiations on the Maldives-India Free Trade Agreement are continuing alongside the implementation of other trade agreements. The Maldives brought its free trade agreement with China into force in January 2025. The Maldives has also signed a preferential trade agreement (PTA) with Turkey. According to the Ministry of Economic Development, Transport and Trade, the two countries are completing the remaining procedural requirements before the agreement enters into force. The Greater Malé Transport and Mobility Office is established to elevate the acute traffic congestion plaguing the capital. Work to formalize this administrative body, which operates under the guidance of a governing board, is currently underway. During a briefing to outline the new agency's mandate, the Ministry of Economic Development, Transport and Trade noted that the creation of the office reflects the special priority President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu has placed on resolving the capital's severe congestion issues. Minister Mohamed Saeed remarked that as the population of the Greater Malé region increases day by day, the number of vehicles are also rising proportionally, and that the Greater Malé Transport and Mobility Office has been established with the objective of finding a permanent solution to the severe traffic congestion problems faced in the Malé region. The strategy integrates the Maldives Police Service, the Housing Development Corporation, the Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development, the Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy, and the Malé City Council. The government has identified 11 priority areas including legislative reform, digitization, and traffic management. The latest census data underscores the severity of the crisis. 254,557 people reside in the Greater Malé area, where the vehicle count has reached 131,689. Vehicular traffic and parking dominate 82% of available space, leaving a mere 18% accessible to pedestrians. The agency will lead regional transport modernization. The government seeks a permanent solution to ease congestion at the Malé commercial harbour, while relocating some port operations to Tilafushi as a temporary measure. The announcement was made in a social media post by the Minister of Economic Development, Transport and Trade, Mohamed Saeed, regarding 4 successful trial operations conducted in Tilafushi to load empty containers to vessels. Maldives Ports Limited, MPL, has been undertaking significant efforts to ease port congestion and operational challenges at the Malé commercial harbour and improve services. In his post, Minister Saeed said the long-standing congestion problem at the commercial port has affected the unloading of goods and remained unresolved under previous governments. He said the government of President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu is seeking a permanent solution for the issue. According to the minister, the government is working hard to fully relocate commercial harbour operations to Tilafushi by November 2027, as pledged by President Muizzu in his presidential address for the year. He said several temporary measures have already been introduced to reduce congestion, including using Tilafushi for empty container operations, while a permanent solution is being developed. MPL conducted its first trial operation to load empty containers to vessels berthed at the quay wall developed in Tilafushi on 3rd May. The latest operation saw 372 TEU containers loaded onto MV Celestia in less than 24 hours. MV Celestia is the 4th vessel to successfully berth at Tilafushi. Tilafushi has become a dedicated depot for storing, cleaning and repairing empty containers, with a capacity of 3,000 TEUs. MPL said the arrangement will provide temporary relief for traders and shipping companies until the new commercial port is completed. The Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy completes detailed studies assessing the condition of freshwater lenses on 37 islands across the Maldives. The ministry said that protecting and conserving freshwater resources on inhabited islands is one of its legal responsibilities under the National Environmental Protection Policy. As part of this effort, the ministry has been conducting studies to assess the condition of freshwater resources on islands throughout the country. Speaking at a press briefing held at the President's office, Director General Mohammad Mustafa revealed that detailed assessments have so far been completed on 37 islands. Speaking to PSM News, Mustafa explained that the studies carried out so far indicate that larger islands generally retain freshwater resources in relatively good condition. The assessments examine the thickness and extent of freshwater lenses, the level of saltwater intrusion, and changes in groundwater conditions over time. He also highlighted that contamination from sewage seepage into the ground is one of the key factors affecting freshwater lenses, stressing that preventing such pollution is essential. At the same time, he noted that there remains significant potential to protect the Maldives' freshwater resources. He added that many islands still possess natural freshwater reserves that could help improve resilience during water-related emergencies. Following the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, which severely affected the Maldives, the government began developing water supply and sewerage services as essential public utilities nationwide. The tsunami caused major changes to freshwater lenses on many islands. The residents of several islands subsequently reported changes in the taste, smell, and color of groundwater. Increasing island populations, higher water consumption driven by modern lifestyles, and the discharge of wastewater into the ground are also believed to have contributed to the deterioration of freshwater lenses across the Maldives. According to Minister of Fisheries, Agriculture and Ocean Resources, Ahmad Shiam, the government's policies to strengthen the fisheries industry are beginning to deliver positive results, including the complete removal of the subsidy previously paid to the Maldives Industrial Fisheries Company, MIFCO, for purchasing fish. The minister made the remarks while responding to questions from members of parliament on matters relating to the fisheries sector. Minister Shiam said the long-standing government policies concerning the fisheries industry need to change in order to increase fish exports. He noted that for around 40 years, the country had continued to rely on a single factory in Felivaro, while insufficient effort had been made to expand national processing capacity. He explained that when the previous government increased the purchase price of fish to $1.62 per kilogram, the state had to provide MIFCO with a subsidy of $0.84 per kilogram in order to maintain that price. This subsidy amounted to billions of Maldivian rupiah each year. The minister questioned why those funds had not instead been invested in expanding fisheries infrastructure. He added that projects currently underway across the Maldives are expected to triple the country's existing fish processing capacity from 105 tons. According to the minister, government reforms and improvements to MIFCO's operations have enabled the subsidy for fish purchases to be completely phased out. The minister also highlighted ongoing efforts to expand processing capacity, including the award of a contract to build a new 100 metric ton tuna canning factory in Hulumale. He said construction is expected to be completed and the facility brought into operation within 18 months. He further stated that the government's strategy is to develop the fisheries industry through collaboration between state-owned enterprises and private companies. According to the minister, the positive results of this approach are already becoming evident. Dr. Shah Mahir, the Managing Director of State Pharmaceuticals and Medical Supplies Corporation, State Pharma, said the company is focused not on increasing commercial profits, but on ensuring that all essential medicines are readily available without interruption. Speaking on a program on Divyahi Jege Adu, Dr. Shah said the corporation's primary responsibility is to procure the medicines and medical supplies required by the Maldives in bulk and ensure that they are distributed to the public. He explained that medicine shortages have been a long-standing issue that has yet to be fully resolved. To address this, the company is working on long-term sustainable solutions. As part of these efforts, State Pharma is strengthening its stock management and supply chain management systems while introducing modern digital technologies to improve efficiency. For long-term needs, medicines that are unavailable in the country continue to be imported on prescription. However, looking ahead, the corporation plans to develop accurate forecasts of the country's medicine requirements and maintain sufficient stocks to meet demand for 1 to 2 years. Dr. Shah stressed that the organization's greatest priority is not to maximize profit, but to ensure all required medicines are consistently available. State Pharma recently began operating the pharmacies previously managed by STO under its own name. A total of 193 pharmacies have now been transferred to State Pharma. Research conducted by the company to address medicine shortages found that only 25% of the medicines used in the Maldives had previously been registered under STO. As a result, State Pharma is working with private sector partners to expand medicine availability while keeping prices under control across the healthcare system. To further improve access to medicines, State Pharma also introduced a dedicated hotline service. The hotline number 1505 is available 24 hours a day, allowing people throughout the Maldives to seek assistance and access the service at any time. For South Korean college students, the country's AI-driven stock boom began to feel less like an opportunity and more like a source of sleepless nights when its biggest companies started opening sharply lower day after day. The turmoil has exposed the darker side of South Korea's spectacular stock market surge, where an AI-fueled rally in Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix helped lift the Kospi above 9,000 for the first time in June, only for the benchmark to tumble. On July 13th, the Kospi stood at 6,806.93, marking a bear market drop from its record highs after one of the sharpest reversals in its history. The whipsaw has hit retail investors particularly hard, many of whom piled into leveraged products tied to the country's semiconductor giants, betting that South Korea's chip boom had further to run. Lee Sung-ho, a 24-year-old college student and member of Kim's investing club, said he turned 20 million won into almost 300 million won around March 2026, a roughly 15-fold gain, before losing it all. The volatility has forced some younger investors to rethink whether they want to remain in the South Korean market. Lim Jae-young, another member of the College Investing Club, said Korea's relatively small trading volume and limited number of market participants made it easier for volatility to build. South Korea's stock market boom had been driven by a powerful rally in chip makers, especially SK Hynix and Samsung Electronics, whose earnings prospects have been lifted by demand for artificial intelligence chips. But the same concentration that powered the rally has magnified the sell-off. Sir said the flows have been concentrated in SK Hynix and Samsung Electronics, the two stocks that dominate the index. SK Hynix has become a symbol of the market mania. The chipmaker rang the opening bell at Nasdaq in New York on July 10th, with SK Group chairman Chae Tae-won also in attendance, after pulling off a record $26.5 billion US listing by a foreign company. But the celebrations came as sole traders were grappling with the extreme swings in chip shares and leveraged products tracking them. Sir said the volatility also reflected growing uncertainty over the outlook for chip makers, as investors increasingly drew both bullish and bearish conclusions from the same developments, making price swings more violent. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the Trump administration launched an effort to dismantle what it calls the threat to U.S. sovereignty by the International Criminal Court. President Donald Trump and others in Washington, such as former President George W. Bush, have long said the ICC should not have the authority to investigate and prosecute Americans, particularly members of the military. Reuters found the Trump administration backed sanctions against ICC officials in part to head off any future attempts to hold the Republican president or his officials accountable for U.S. military action overseas. In a video message posted on Monday, Rubio said the ICC was initially intended to prosecute only the gravest offenses, but had turned out to be something far more radical and extreme, adding that the Trump administration would not allow the court to threaten U.S. personnel. A State Department official, speaking on condition of anonymity, told Reuters earlier that a wide range of options is under consideration to target the ICC, including travel bans, visa revocations, increased sanctions against the ICC and affiliated organizations, and diplomatic pressure on other nations to withdraw from the ICC. The ICC was established in 2002 by the international community to prosecute war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity. It asserts jurisdiction only if a member state is unable or unwilling to prosecute atrocities itself. The United States has never been a member of the court. However, the ICC statute also gives the court the power to prosecute atrocity crimes committed on the territory of member states by nationals of non-member states. Trump's opposition toward the court goes back to his first term. It manifested again with a plan to penalize ICC officials, an idea developed in November 2024 when Trump was re-elected and the ICC issued an arrest warrant for his ally, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. The United Nations on Monday defended the ICC as an important part of the global justice system. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said the ICC was separate from the UN Secretariat and the United Nations, but remained a critical cog in the international justice system. According to media reports, Belgian captain Yuri Tielemans is nearing a move to Manchester United. The 20-time English champions are believed to have triggered Tielemans' 35th million release clause to pave the way for a transfer from Aston Villa. The 29-year-old central midfielder enjoyed 3 successful seasons in the West Midlands, capped off with a Europa League title win in May. He joined as a free agent from Leicester City in 2023, entrusted with the captaincy under head coach Rudi Garcia. Tielemans led his country to a quarter-final run at the World Cup. He arrives at a Manchester United side rebuilding their midfield under Michael Carrick following the departure of Brazilian veteran Casemiro, an injury to Manuel Ugarte, and a transfer for Atlanta's Ederson reportedly falling through on medical grounds. Visitors flock to the Huntington Botanical Gardens near Los Angeles after 2 Titan arums, commonly known as corpse flowers, began blooming simultaneously in a rare display. The endangered Titan arum is famous for its pungent odor it emits during bloom to attract pollinators, such as carrion beetles and flies. Each bloom, which lasts just 24 to 48 hours, is one of the rarest and short-lived spectacles in the plant world. Native to Sumatra, Indonesia, the plant flowers only bloom once every 2 to 3 years, making each event a rare opportunity for the public to witness. Eric De Leon, an orchid specialist at the Huntington, said the corpse flower helps engage the public with conservation, drawing such enthusiasm that some visitors even take time off work to see the rare bloom. Visitor Brandon Munoz, who said he had waited years to see a corpse flower bloom, described the odor as like a dumpster, while Jennifer Huang, 42, of San Gabriel, California, compared it to a smelly animal. And that's all the news we have for today. Thank you for watching PSM News.